Hello, guys. Hello, hello. I'm all small up here today because I really wanted to utilize a graphic for today's Zoom since we have so much content out there about adrenal stuff. I'm kind of wanting to condense things and really form little classrooms dedicated to components that come up time and time again throughout your time in CCA. And you've probably heard us talk about adrenals a bunch of times. So today we're going to go have a brief overview of as much as possible, but I really wanted to give you guys some kind of a resource to go along with it. So I'm hoping that you're loving the little graphics we have here. I'm super proud of them because I'm like tech challenged. So I'm like, "Oh my god, I figured out how to share on this shit." You know, it's like a great moment for me. But I'm of course hoping that you guys are loving it as well. So, for today's call, as per usual, I love hearing feedback from you guys as I'm covering things. If you need me to go over anything again, if you have any questions, I want to make sure you guys feel comfortable sending it over in the chat. If I don't get to it right as you send it, I will make sure today that I backtrack and go over everything before we jump. All right. So this might not be for the sake of time. Everybody, you guys have worked, you've had full lives all day today. I'm going to try not to overload you with info. Like I said, we have tons of these resources already recorded out. So what I'm going to be doing after we go over everything here, kind of brief, I'm also going to be posting this week, along with the recording, a little Google Classroom that compiles all the pertinent videos and resources I think would be good for this. We're going to call it Happy Adrenals. Those of you who were a part of the New Year's challenge, I don't know if we called it a challenge. I don't even remember, but that little WhatsApp group where I did a daily tidbit, I did a journal prompt, a recipe, a focus for the day. I am planning one that correlates with the Happy Adrenals series. So I'll tell you more details on that once it's in the works a little further. Okay, so, well, let me get comfy. You guys have me on the couch here today. Okay, so who here, tell me in the chat, if you're looking at this graphic here, we have a few listed. Medusa moments out of nowhere, and I'll go in and elaborate more. No energy when you wake up, yet wired energy at night. You're like, why the hell do I feel this way at 10 p.m. and I feel like a zombie at 10 a.m.? Right? Issues falling asleep or just kind of like turning the brain off. Food aversions or just feeling like really grossed out by food. Lack of appetite, especially in the morning, during the day. Extreme frustration and confusion and light sleep. So tell me in the chat, are any of these symptoms something you've experienced currently in the past? Who can relate to feeling some of these things? In the chat, see absolutely. Wired energy at night. Isn't it so annoying? Almost all. Yep. And it's not that it's just because like you suck, you know? Most of these, especially in the past. Yeah, Addie. You know? So let's get into why these may be. So, Medusa moments out of nowhere. If you have angry adrenals, right, you tend to have maybe a quicker trigger for your adrenals to be activated. So, and this is actually for those of you who are on ADHD meds, believe it or not, certain ADHD meds can also trigger additional adrenaline to be released. I went through it when I was on medication. I figured out a way to balance it. If that's you, text me or your coach separately and we'll work that into how we manage things. But there's lots of things that can create that excess of adrenaline or that uneven adrenaline schedule where you're instead of getting your cortisol and your adrenaline, your stress hormones during the day, so it gives you oomph, you're getting them at night, right? A bunch of things could happen. But the big thing when it comes to Medusa moments out of nowhere, where you feel like the rage and the frustration and just the agitation, I should say, just kind of washes over you. You become snippy. You become like your skin bothers you. You're just so agitated. Anyone ever feel that way? And like typically whoever's in the crosshairs gets the brunt of you feeling that way. And it's not you like as a person, like you don't You feel badly afterwards. You're like, what the hell? Like, why did I react so strongly? You might not even show it to other people. It might be something you just kind of sit there and internally implode and want to kill everything inside that's good. Like just this overwhelming feeling of anger that is very not you. Well, that is if you've heard of the fight or flight mechanism, which is queued up by adrenaline, because biologically it's your brain going, oh, there's an emergency. So instead of like getting the hell out of there, you're going to puff your chest and you're going to fight. But because it's a chemical issue and there's not like literally a threat, it's typically going to be anything around you that's going to be the threat and get the brunt of that aggression. It's a crossing of the wires. And Shelby, as you said there, plus mix that with PTSD. Absolutely. There's so many studies showing that if you have PTSD from trauma that you've endured in the past, that an adrenal response is extremely easy. It's just kind of, it's there for our survival. So that is going to be even more of an argument for adrenal involvement here, or as I like to say, miserable adrenals. So that Medusa moment out of nowhere, you feel like your ears get hot, you feel like your face gets hot, you just want to like bite something, like because you're just so frustrated and agitated. Adrenaline. Okay. I mentioned it before. No energy when you wake up, but wired at night. Your schedule of your adrenaline can be off. And I know I interchange adrenaline and cortisol. Sorry. They kind of are the same thing, essentially. One's a precursor to the other. Cortisol is your stress hormone. And it's not like we're not supposed to release any. That would be a disease if you didn't release any. We're supposed to have a nice balance. So this way you have the excess cortisol when you wake up. That's when you're supposed to get the most. And that's supposed to get you up out of bed, give you that oomph to get going. Then it kind of wanes a little bit midday. You eat something, it goes back up. Then it kind of wanes again midday by like 3 p.m., which a lot of times people feel that like 3 or 4 p.m. like lull that hits them. That's because your cortisol is on the downward trend. And then it's supposed to, go up a little bit and then start tapering off in your evening. So this way, by the time you go to sleep, there's no more in your system. Now, when you got some miserable adrenals, your cortisol schedule may be off. Factor that in with some of the stuff we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides. And it might end up being that you get that awake cortisol energy at night instead of in the morning. And then that's what causes that zombie when you wake up. Takes you forever to get going. You need coffee or you need a kick in the ass or something because you're just dragging. But then at night it's 10 p.m. and you can like be cleaning behind the sofa. Cortisol's off. Okay. Which one do I want to tackle now? Same thing. If you have excess cortisol in your system at night when you try to go to sleep, melatonin can't really sink in and do its thing. So issues falling asleep and feeling light in your sleep, almost like lucid dreaming sometimes, where you're like in halfway asleep and halfway awake. Those are all signs of excess cortisol in your system, which is a sign of a pissed off adrenal system. Okay. So I think the extreme frustration and confusion could also kind of correlate with the Medusa moments, but also if you have low cortisol, like I said, at that 3 p.m. lull, if you feel like no one's home, like you're lucky you're staying awake at that moment. That extreme frustration and confusion, that brain fog, that's going to be what you're feeling. You're not going to be more apt to take in information if there's nothing there. And lastly, let's talk about this appetite and food aversions and nausea. And then we'll take a break and I want to get some feedback from you guys or anything you want me to dive into more, okay? But think about it this way. You're out in the wilderness, right? And you have to rely on your senses and your adrenals, like we said, it goes along with your fight or your flight mechanism. So let's say you get up in the morning and you feel like you don't have the oomph, but you have a lot of responsibility and you have to get going. You have to get up and moving. You got to prioritize other things. You got to get to work. You got to take care of kids, whatever the hell it is. Morning's usually the go time, or like at least If you're tired, you're sleeping till the last possible chance you can, typically. So to the brain, you're demanding energy, demanding energy. If we think about this in like a primal sense, that can, and if you have like an easy trigger adrenal system going on, or response going on, then your brain is going to perceive that as an emergency or there's a threat looming. Now, if you think about it, you're out in the wilderness, right? And you sense that there's a threat. And that's the time you say to yourself, wow, I'm in the mood for some berries. I think I should just, I should stop running for my life. So, because I'm hungry. You're like, our survival instinct wouldn't be very good if that was the case, right? That would not be the opportune time to stop and forage for food. So, what does that translate into? And I'm being funny, but what that translates into, no prioritization of food because your brain is in go, go, go mode. So, if you're in the morning, if you're just putting all your energy into like getting what you have to do, like getting it done, and you feel like eating is the ultimate chore in the morning, that's because your body is literally not allowing your hunger hormone ghrelin to be released because it would be a distraction from this looming threat that might be there. Again, it's a crossing of the wires. There might not be a threat. The threat might be that you have to like log into work in a half hour, like that. And it feels like I can't possibly take a bite of something, and not to mention if you're biologically, if you're not releasing ghrelin and you're not into the idea of eating in that moment, nothing's going to sound good to you. I hear that all the time. People are like, well, nothing sounds good to me. Have you guys ever felt like that? Tell me in the chat. Where it's like you feel like kind of nauseous, but it's more so like a food all kind of sounds like glue to you at that moment. Like you're just like, I'm not interested. Well, that's because that ghrelin isn't going. The idea that we have to be physically starving before eating, that is a diet culture, man-made, not rooted in science kind of bullshit. That's just to make us not eat as much, honestly. You're supposed to get a feeling of wanting to eat something, like a hankering. That's ghrelin. That's a good thing. That's like your body's supposed to be like, I could eat, and then you eat. When you wait until you're physically starving before you eat, it's already too late. Your body's like, please help, mayday. And when you have miserable adrenals, that mayday is what we are perpetually trying to avoid. We want a nice, secure, happy, nurtured, nourished system. Because if your miserable adrenals is based on having that emergency response system in your brain and that easy trigger, we want to calm that. I have to remember you can't hear Sammy snoring, but just know it was loud. But, we want to make sure that everything is nice and gentle and cared for. When you're dealing with adrenals, that is the name of the game. Easy going. Okay. Let's see what you guys are saying. This morning was like that. Mornings like that are so brutal because it's like, you need to eat, but it's just like, it feels like the last thing in the world that you need to be doing. I totally get it. I was the same way for a very long time. I used to have to like trick myself to eat in the morning. I did not have a hunger cue in the morning at all. Or the hungry and nothing sounds good. That's the worst because then you feel that pit and you feel that like hunger nausea, but it's like, I don't even want, like, putting something in your mouth feels like you're going to throw up. And I don't know about you guys, but it's always like things like bread or like something that might not be as hormonally friendly in other ways that it seems the most palatable, not even good, but like at least you can get that down. Right? So it's always a trick. Fun times. Fun times. Okay. So the idea behind all this is summertime's coming up, right? And now we're working on it. We're at different stages of being okay. That bikini season can happen for anybody at any size. I don't care what you say. I could be a size 0 and I don't like bikinis. That's besides the point. But you can wear whatever the hell you want this summer. We're not putting a focus on summer because you need to lose weight by summer. But here's my thing. No matter what size you are, no matter what bathing suit you're in this summer, do you not want to do more stuff in the summer typically? And who the hell wants to feel like trash in the summer, especially? Like the winter, you feel like trash. You can like dress like Adam Sandler and hibernate and like Even if you're feeling good, you feel a little bit like trash. It's just like it's the cozy time. But in the summer, like just by default, even if you're not out there in a G-string, maybe like your frumpy suits like this one over here, just genuinely, whatever it is you're into, you should be able to be into that and like feel good. So if we're still worrying about like I gotta eat less and move more for a bikini season, like if that's your mindset and you're gotten to this point and you've agreed like you feel these things, you feel like your adrenals have been messed up. The good news and bad news. The good news is we can fix it. The bad news is it's a little bit different than maybe you're thinking. And it's all rooted in gentleness, as annoying and slow as that might seem. Okay. So plus no school, so wanting more energy to have a fun summer. Yeah, like you want to do things. You don't want to feel like your whole life, especially in the summertime, is dedicated to just like work and home, or just barely having enough energy for your family, and then at the end of the day you're completely spent. Or maybe you're just like feeling like you don't even have that energy for them and you're freaking out at them all day long. No one wants that any day, let alone the summertime. So if I keep mentioning summer, I don't want anyone to think it's because I'm harping on we got to lose weight by the summer. This is so much, who can agree with that? This is so much deeper than that. It would suck to feel this way at any size. You could have a freaking six pack and this would suck to experience. No? I would think so. So, okay. That being said, how the hell do I scroll to the next slide? Okay. I said I figured out the graphic. That's my shining moment. Oh, look at that. Okay. So, happy adrenals. Let's look at the physical side of things first. These are, you guys have been with me. A lot of you have been with me a long time where I don't like to just straight up tell you, do this, don't do that. I put these up here just to get to the point. But again, I'm going to be posting this with a classroom that's dedicated to the intricacies of making this stuff happen. So I don't expect you to see this listed on this Zoom today and be like, go forth and conquer, do this all tomorrow. This is still CCA. We still have baby steps. You still have a coach. You still have me. So I don't want you to think this, Zoom that I'm trying to abbreviate here for the sake of all of our attention spans is like, good, go forth, you're good. Okay. So that being said, let's cut to the chase. So here are some things that I see. These are the number one ways to kind of screw with your adrenals and to have miserable adrenals is to go against this. Here's how we have happy adrenals. No caffeine within 2 hours of waking up. Caffeine throughout the day. There is a hierarchy of this. I'm going to post a video that goes over this a little bit further, but coffee caffeine is the closest caffeine to cortisol in the body as a chemical structure. So, especially within the first 2 hours of waking up, what happens is your body perceives that you have excess cortisol. So, what it does is it holds off on delivering natural cortisol. And then it ends up just pushing it off. So it's not like your body sees the coffee cortisol there and is like, oh, roger that. Let's take it out of today's delivery. What happens is it ends up just delaying your normal cortisol schedule. So that pushes it into the evening, which causes that additional cortisol at night, which causes those symptoms that I was talking about. So it's easy and not easy. Might not be easy for some. It wasn't for me, but at least waiting 2 hours after you wake up to have that burst of caffeine, that's going to be a huge help already. Whew, lots of talking today. Okay. Do not go. Oh, and I'm going to give you some tools to help with this on the next slide. So do not go longer than 2 hours without eating something. Now, ideally, especially if we're dealing with like insulin resistance or we're dealing with thyroid issues, which needs you to have some protein throughout the day, both of which need you to have protein throughout the day, right? Even if you were to eat a couple of berries, some nuts, a piece of, I don't even know, like I'm just pulling this out my butt, but like you go through a drive-through and you get like some egg bites, right, at Dunkin' or Starbucks or whatever. Eat something. Don't go longer than 2 hours without eating something. Your body, again, you have an easy adrenal trigger. And if your body is underfed, then your body is going to be kicking it in with that adrenaline. And we want to avoid that. We want a nice, well-fed, nourished body. Okay. That being said, eat over 1,400 calories a day. Now, especially my newbies in here or hearing on the playback, right? You might hear eat over 1,400 calories a day. Well, what's the maximum? You would have to, like, unless you are eating like Krispy Kreme and Arby's and shit like that, like all day long, like you would have to actively really try to like eat a lot of calories. The majority of my clients, even the ones who think that they're doing so terribly, if you really tallied up all your calories every day, I think you'd be hard. I think you'd be kind of surprised to see it's not like you're really going nuts, right? You got to like really actively try. If you're trying to eat over 1,400 calories a day, you're eating throughout the day. Again, there's baby steps. This is individual to each of you, depending on your other stuff, right? But you're eating throughout the day. No matter what the case is, you should never, as an adult person, be eating less than 1,400 calories a day. That's another diet culture crazy thing. It's actually statistically proven that the less calories you eat in the long run, the more likely you are to have weight issues. So it's not the calories. Now, I'm not saying 1,400 calories of chicken is the same as 1,400 calories of chocolate. So, like I said, it is dependent on you. Definitely, talk with us about it. But if you're eating under 1,400 calories a day, miserable adrenal territory, right? This is the one that's nuanced. And I know the clients that would hear this and like I can feel the eye rolls, and I get it because you got stuff going on at home that it's like I would love to get decent sleep. But what I mean is the up on your couch with all the lights on TikTok at 3 a.m. kind of evenings, right? Get consistent, decent sleep. Have a quitting time where you shut everything down and you just go lay there and you decompress with your thoughts. I'm not saying that that'll be like the end all be all that you'll fall asleep. This is nuanced. There's a lot that goes into sleep issues being the case. But at the end of the day, attempting to get consistent, decent sleep is huge. And here's one that people are usually surprised by. Oh my God, my leg fell asleep. I'm leaning too far over. Sorry. Avoid, is it like, do I say the whole acronym or like is it just HIT? Like avoid HIT, like any intense prolonged cardiovascular activity. Anything where it's like Orange Theory, you're running for your freaking life, like you're hauling ass on a bike so hard you can hear your heartbeat in your ears. Like, I don't know if we're still doing that, like that P90X, like crazy shit kind of working out. But that is what I feel like every doctor really wanted to see me doing. Like, I feel like unless I had a video of me not eating all day and like me sweating buckets on a spinning bike, the doctors thought I wasn't working hard enough. But here's the thing, that screws adrenals. When you have pissed off adrenals, when you're running for your life, like your adrenals think you're running for your life, and you're just going to release excess cortisol and adrenaline. It's going to be counterintuitive. Let's see. I was like addicted to Soul Cycle and had no idea that it was making it worse. I hear it all the time. I used to do the same thing. I used to like kick my ass in the gym and be like, no, I'm trying. I'm working so hard. I'm not a lazy person who doesn't care about their health. And I was like the sickest that I ever was. It was like a cruel joke, right? But there's a reason. There's a scientific explanation for that. And that's because it's like who told us it was healthy to be acting like we're running for our lives? Like, go figure, So let's see. The 2 hour one is so hard. And yes, a bite or a piece of something makes it doable. Yeah, that one, try to eat as soon as you wake up. When you don't have a hunger cue, especially if you're used to drinking coffee as soon as you wake up, it might take a little bit to adjust, but your body is going to switch. Instead of using like the synthetic cortisol, like from the caffeine from the coffee, instead it's going to start utilizing the calories you're eating, the protein you're eating, the carbs you're eating, and use those things for energy, aka metabolize it. And then your morning cortisol, your body will get used to the fact of this routine and it'll start releasing normal cortisol. You'll end up feeling energized. It's just making that transition, which again, it was really hard for me too, but making that transition away from the caffeine and like going towards your body using those natural sources of energy. It feels way better. because even the caffeine energy, I don't know about you guys, sometimes it's like it still doesn't feel like clean energy. It feels like burdened energy, like wired energy. Um, and we want nice, good, consistent energy. Takeaways, thoughts before I move on to tools you can use for this. Tell me in the chat. Is this hitting home? Is this helping? You overwhelmed? Tell me what you're feeling. I needed this a lot today. Yes. I missed you guys. Everyone thought I was in Greece for like vacation, I feel like. I was there for family estate stuff and like cleaning out my aunt's place and just all this stuff. And then I was working with you guys at night and I was like, I can't wait to just be back on my couch doing my calls in the same around time zones, doing my Zooms. So I'm very excited to be back. Hitting me in the brain bad. Yes, which we love. This feels very timely for me. Ooh, I love it. Well, I don't love that it's needed, but I love that if it is, it's timely. Okay, so let's see. Next slide. Okay, so tools we can utilize. Go for decaf. I know it feels like a really cheap alternative. I swear, I used to make fun of people who drank decaf. I was like, what do you drink it for the flavor? And like, yes, I love the ritual of my coffee. I love the flavor of my coffee. Greeks love coffee, right? Like we have our frappes. If you remember when I used to post every day what I was eating, I had a frappe basically every single morning, but it was decaf. Um, and there's like a minuscule amount in decaf. Okay, I get it, but that's not going to be enough to screw you over with your cortisol and stuff. And it's definitely going to be something that can just replace the habit that you're used to, right? Because that's really what makes things hard to change. So easy swap, just swap out for decaf. If you like to go out to get coffee, swap it out for decaf. So challenging exercise versus grueling. So this doesn't mean that because you have pissed off adrenals that you can't move your body. Like there's still other things that are still considered working out. I like to do movement that isn't considered movement or like exercise, I should say. Like if you can. Like I love going outside and doing yard work. Right now the weather's getting nice finally. I like, reorganizing rooms. I know it sounds weird, but like cleaning walls down in certain rooms, doing baseboards, like sometimes I think of these things. If I think of it as like, I got to do it because I got to clean it, it ain't happening. But if I'm like, that'll be some interesting way to get movement in, I'm more likely to do it. I like to hula hoop. I like to I have a little mini trampoline that I love to jump on, which is actually a really hard workout. Little mini steppers that you could have at home. Like you could have fun. You could challenge yourself if you like to lift. Go for it, do weights, go up on challenging hikes. Like you don't need to be sedentary because you're going to aggravate your adrenals. But there is a difference between working out to the point where you're kicking your own ass and like you're running for survival, right? And doing something that like really requires you to think about your movement and take breaks and you're enjoying it. You're maybe even having fun. Go figure. That is a whole different ballgame, and it is very helpful for hormones. Also, moving lymph fluid is really, really helpful for getting excess cortisol, excess adrenaline through your system. So by moving your arms and legs, it doesn't mean you have to do that, because you're doing a freaking survival boot camp video. Like you can do that doing a lot of different things. Do some yoga, do some Pilates, do some floor movements, some resistance bands. All of that's okay. Just don't kick your own ass. Okay. And then this one's a really deep topic. I think that I want to do another Zoom specifically on this. This is going to be the topic of the 2 retreat weekends in April and May. We're focusing on being well fed is not the enemy. I remember there was a time where like that phrase, well fed, you might as well have just called me a pig. Like the shame that came with that, because like only naturally thin girls could be well fed. When I was growing up, well fed, fewer, bigger, like that just meant you just don't know how to control yourself. There's just so much negativity with that. But in what way is that a bad thing? Like our bodies, like, yeah, Addie, fed is best. Like, truly, why is that only okay for a baby? And that's not like not okay for the people who who grow from babies, right? Like, why do we ditch that feeling of being nourished, being a good thing, and being well fed? Like, that is like, if you have access to be well fed, you deserve to be well fed, right? And that is different for all of us, maybe, but it's still super important. So, working on your relationship with being full and feeling nourished. That's a big deal. And that is nuanced. Okay? All right. We're going to talk about some of these mentality ones, and then we'll talk some tools. And then, like I said, I'm going to be posting this in the page as a full a little like assembled classroom with all of the pertinent YouTubes and materials that I think go along with it. So, if I run through these for the sake of time, that is why. All right, so happy adrenals mentally. Nighttime, or I skipped right over the first one for some reason. Have set quiet time if self care is impossible. So, self care, the idea of self care, I don't know if you guys feel the same. Tell me in the chat. Doesn't self care sometimes feel like overwhelming when you feel burnt out, when you feel spent? You're like, I don't want to paint my nails. Like, I don't want to go for like draw a bath. Like, I'm freaking tired and I just want to veg. And that's when we typically turn to like scrolling and stuff like that, right? Yes. Feels like a chore. Like it's just not like self care so easily becomes last priority. Of course, because you're spent. You're giving everything to all of the things you need to, right? And, we all think there could be ways that you can give less of yourself. But at the end of the day, if you got a full plate, you got a full plate, right? What the hell is a face mask going to do when you don't feel like sitting in your freaking bathroom doing it? Like, no, no, thank you. But quiet time is super important. And especially like, and some of the parents, I feel like my clients who are parents hearing this, they're like, yeah, I know. I wish, right? Find a way to chisel it out. Even if you put noise canceling headphones in and you get 10 minutes in between the time they go to bed and the time you knock the hell out, whatever the case may be, but have a dedicated 10 minutes of just no responsibility time minimum. Even if you're like, well, I already do that. Think of it like package it that way to yourself mentally. Before it starts, be like, okay, it's quiet time. It just does something. It provides, from my experience, it provides that same level of feeling like you're prioritizing yourself, but you're just kind of vegging like you usually do. And if you don't do that typically, allow yourself to. It's wonderful. It's a good recharge. Okay, nighttime routine / quitting time. I mentioned this before, right? Is you want to have a quitting time where you're not just sitting on your phone till, it's like, bruh, it might as well be daylight. You have all your lights on, you're on TikTok, you're not a care in the world, right? And it's like 2 a.m. Cortisol is making that easy to do. But if we're trying to work around that, we want to teach our body to have some kind of a clock to get used to. So, I really feel like nighttime routine needs to be dependent on the person. I think in the person's situation. So if you would like to figure out your ideal nighttime routine and your quitting time and how you're going to do that, message your coach, message me, try to, and just be like, I have some challenges figuring out my nighttime routine, and then we'll troubleshoot it and make it work. Because it needs to be like, some people's routine needs to be really flexible. Some people's routine, they do better if it's super structured, but there's always ways to kind of make it suit your brain, your threshold, and everything. But nighttime routine is super important, just so that it doesn't become sitting there waiting to get tired, because there's no worse feeling than that when the rest of the world is asleep, you know? The 5-5 technique. Okay, I'm going to run through this quickly, but again, there is material on this that I will be posting. So the idea of and this, I'm not talking about like the full-on adrenaline rage has happened. We all know when that's going on, it needs to run its course, right? There ain't no stopping that train. So if you can catch it before that happens, the 5-5 technique is just basically it helps you ground yourself and become really present. And the idea is you want to stop. You want to think about physically the way you feel in your clothes in that moment, where you're sitting, what you're doing, and you want to find 5 things that are good and 5 things that are true about the current status, the current state that you are in. 5 things that are good. My house smells nice. My sweatshirt is comfy. I have my favorite blanket on my lap and it's the perfect weight. Find 5 of those, whatever. Five things that are good, 5 things that are true. I'm looking at my kitchen. I'm looking at my computer. I have socks on my feet. My water's next to me. It's basically just taking the minute that it takes to have to stop and think about the small, minuscule things that are good about right now and that are true about right now. And that kind of helps bring you back into the moment instead of letting the adrenaline spiral begin. Stop hating rest. That's a very nuanced topic. I get it. But stop hating rest. You're not lazy. You're not unproductive. Sometimes being unproductive is the most productive thing you can do because have you ever tried to force productivity? Is it ever that excellent? I mean, I know we all got to do it sometimes, but ultimately, if you're like having a meltdown and you're like, I can't rest, ask yourself why. Like, is the queen coming tomorrow where the dishes like need to be done? You know, like, are we putting extra stress on ourselves? Are we really just beating ourselves up because our house isn't like Better Homes and Garden? Like, what year is this? It's crazy these days out here. You know, like, stop hating rest. Rest is phenomenal. It helps rebuild things. It gives your body a chance to recuperate. It's a wonderful thing, just like being fed. So rest more. And of course, I know you're like, I work, I can't rest. I get it, but when you can, don't make it even harder on yourself because you're like, well, now I'm home and I gotta be productive. Rest is productive when you got a system that needs rest. And then stop this. This is another really nuanced one, but stop sabotaging dialogue, right? So if you're in your own head and you are talking the most shit out of anybody in your life, you got a perpetual adrenaline stirrer living in your head, rent free, just wreaking havoc on you for no reason. There's nothing wrong with not being an ass to yourself. It's not going to mean that you're going to go off the rails. You're not going to care anymore. You're going to go off the deep end. In fact, the opposite is true. When we're nice to ourselves, we take better care of ourselves, right? Don't we generally take better care of things we like and enjoy? So why would you be, mad at you're being mean to yourself? It's not going to make you better. It's just going to make it harder. So very nuanced topic. I don't expect somebody to hear that and go, oh, after decades, it finally makes sense. Okay, I get it. We're working towards that. But I just want you to see that pitched as a part of your adrenal health is you could do all these things. And if at the end of your day, you're sitting in your own head, heckling yourself constantly, what good is any of it? You're not going to prove that voice wrong. That is you, that voice. So don't be a jerk to yourself. Let's see some tools for this before my voice formally gives out for the night. Okay, wow, I clicked the right one. This is great. Okay, so plan of mediocrity. These are all Zooms that exist. So I'm not going to run through them extensively, like I've said. But plan of mediocrity. We're so afraid of the word mediocre, but I don't think that it should have a bad connotation, just like lazy, right? I just was in a country full of people who like pride themselves on how lazy they live their lives. They do what they got to do, but like they don't stress about a lot. They don't rush. They relish in rest. They relish in food, right? They live to like 110, you know? So, and here's the thing, they embrace on certain days a plan of mediocrity, right? So it's okay to have an alternative plan for the low threshold days. You don't just keep expecting your highest performance out of yourself no matter what's going on in the background. Have multiple plans for multiple states you might be in. It's okay. We're ever changing human beings. Okay? Oh my God, we should all move there. It is amazing. I love it so much. Side note, my insulin that's $350 a bottle here is 20 euro a bottle there. That's been in my head all week. And I'm just like, between that and the oranges and the produce, I don't know. But anyway, the time zone kept me coming back from where I am glad I'm home. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll is a whole process, right? It incorporates a little bit of somatic stuff in there. The idea is just because, you might be afraid in the moment to take that step and process something doesn't mean that it's gone away for now. You might feel like if I stop and think about this one thing, I'm going to just lose my cool and that's going to be hours of my life, blah, blah, blah. But what ends up happening is you're running away from processing for hours of your life and you're still operating at half potential as a result. So, stop, drop, and roll is a way to process those feelings so they don't just linger and cause that internal stress, i.e., cortisol and adrenaline, and instead process it, get it done, and move on in the moment. There is a way to do it quickly. And then lastly, eat the frog. Those of you who have been with me for a while, you might have heard this before. It'll be a good refresher, but how you start your day has a lot to do with how much energy you expend, mental energy you expend throughout the whole day. And we try to kind of power through it ourselves all the time. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But if you start your day with a certain structure, and I happen to love Eat the Frog for this, you're going to end up expending a lot less mental energy, having more left over for your own personal life, and it ends up feeling like you're more together. All great Zooms, these are all going to be in the Happy Adrenals classroom. Okay, so whew, I am an inch away from losing my voice for today. But what do you guys think? Was this helpful? I am excited to post this classroom for you guys just so it's all in one place. I will be posting it with these graphics as well. I'll also put these up in the Facebook group under the recording when we post that tomorrow. But I hope that this was helpful. I really think that no matter what, there's so many distractions from this kind of foundational stuff. We're just told eat less, move more. You should watch everything you eat, no sugar, no carbs, no this, eat that, no gluten, no dairy. There's all these like rules around, but like, are we ever stopping to really make sure that we're just straight up nourished? We can nitpick the other things according to what we need personally after the fact, but this is the foundation of it all. Making sure you're eating, making sure you're not running yourself ragged, and making sure you're not unintentionally giving yourself some disruptive, quasi hormones through coffee. But I hope that this was helpful, and I'm excited to talk to you guys more one-on-one. Don't hesitate to bring this up to your coach, to ask for whatever feels like a challenge from today for you. Good. Let's troubleshoot around that. Tell your coach, whatever, and let's figure out a plan. All right. And I will tag all of you guys when I get that classroom up. All right. I hope you all enjoy your night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.